Parallel universes. They make your character look different and their world more bizarre. Do you want to see Olivia Dunham different in her world mostly science fiction and less normal? Bam. Do you want to see countless Ben Tennysons in one whole episode? Bam. And do you want to see Jonathan Joestar turn into a crippled American horse rider? You guessed it. Bam. But in my opinion, it just makes even more cooler and better. I mean, who doesn't want to see a different version of themselves? Not only that, it's about a character's personality and he or she's world. But you need to put a lot of detail to make sense, like how did it happen? Where did it started? Why did they do it in the first place? The list goes on. So that's where we start. What If by Marvel. This is like one of those anthropology series, like Goosebumps for example, where each episode is different. The main character is the protagonist in the first episode, and then he or she is the main character in the next episode. Now, without further ado, let's go and travel into the boundaries of the multiverse.
Follow me and ponder the question, what if?
The first parallel universe is called Captain America was the first Avenger. The event takes place of Captain America, the first Avenger. It happens in World War II, and the world needed a super soldier. And that was supposed to be Steve Rogers, but he gets wounded by a Hydra spy who infiltrated the lab. The chamber was going to be destroyed, and no one was going to get inside. So Carter went instead and obtained the super serum. Meanwhile, Red Skull is at the church recovering the Tesseract early in this universe, and Howard gave Carter a vibranium shield, except with the flag of Britain, not USA. So she suits up and stops Zola at the Berlin Hamburg gate and obtained the Tesseract. She gives it to Howard, giving him an idea to build something awesome. Carter goes to rescue the 107 commandos on a motorcycle, defeats an army of tanks to stop them. The Hydra Stomper comes to the rescue, blasting everything in sight. Then Carter goes to the train mission to capture, just like the one in the movie. Then we see here Steve opening the front of the train and exploded. Then there's the final mission where it's going to take place in a building called Castle Creek, where Captain is busting every Hydra soldier in the front. Red Skull uses the Tesseract, which came from the Hydra Stomper, and summons the tentacle monster, which kinda resembles a Lovecraft monster. Then, all of a sudden, Steve is back along with the Hydra Stomper, revealing he was still alive and kept captive by Red Skull. To put an end to this, Carter sacrificed herself by dragging it back into the portal. Along with Carter, and 70 years later, she meets Fury and Hawkeye, asking where he is. Okay, the next universe is called T'Challa Becomes Star-Lord, and it takes the event of the Guardian of the Galaxy. In 1988, the Ravengers were sent by Ego to retrieve Peter Quill, but they got the wrong boy, and that boy was young T'Challa, meaning he was at the wrong place at the wrong time. T'Challa didn't want to go back to Earth because he wanted to explore the world, but Yondu convinced him that why not explore other worlds? So T'Challa went with the Ravagers, and instead of being the bad guys, they became the good guys, protecting the galaxy, which I find it really cool since some of the characters in the MCU turned super chill. In the present day, T'Challa is in Borag, retrieving the Power Stone as Korath was now there. But in here, he is a completely different person, which in my opinion sounds pretty dope. This guy is a comic relief. Korra fought T'Challa and loses. He meets with Yondu outside the temple and went to a party planet to meet the gang, along with good Thanos and good Nebula. Nebula gets into a conversation with T'Challa that she has a new job to do, and that is stealing, somewhere in the planet of nowhere. Unsurprisingly, the mission goes wrong and they get captured. But earlier in the mission, T'Challa saw a Wakandan spaceship, realizing his planet is still alive, and Yondu lied to him. He gets mad at him and took custody of the Collector, but he escapes and he and Yondu kick the Collector's butt, while the rest of the team escape. Then we see Yondu taking T'Challa back to Earth and reunited with his family. We also see Peter is working with Dairy Queen, and he meets his dad. You know, father and son bonding. Okay, the next one is called The World Loses Its Mightiest Heroes. The event takes place at Nick Fury's big week. Except in this universe, the Avengers were all assassinated. Each and every one of the Avengers were killed mysteriously, like Iron Man, Hawkeye, Thor, Hulk, and Black Widow. The Asgardians are angry because of the prince's death, and he turns out that Hank Pym killed all of them because he blames Fury for the loss of his daughter. They fought, including Loki. Fury gives Pym to Loki, but he likes the place, so he decides to stay there while that Nick Fury calls out the only people left who Hank didn't kill: Captain America and Captain Marvel. Doctor Strange loses his heart instead of his hands is a kinda different version of the original film, Doctor Strange. In this universe, Doctor Strange loses the love of his life instead of his hands, because instead of going to a party alone, he meets the love of his life, Dr. Palmer, on a date. But when they were in the highway, their car crashed. Instead of losing his hands, he lost Palmer. So the usual in the MCU, he goes to how do I pronounce that? Kamar-Taj, learns the mystic art, loses the Ancient One, defeats Dormammu, all that stuff in the MCU. 2 years later, Strange is still feeling depressed after Palmer's death, and he decides to use the Time Stone to go back in time and save Palmer. But no matter how many times he saves her, she still dies. Out of nowhere, the Ancient One appears to Strange, explaining why she shouldn't do this reality madness, but he didn't listen as he quickly escaped and traveled into a mysterious library. During research, the only way he can break this time shenanigans is to absorb a lot of creatures with different shapes and sizes, causing him to become even more evil and even more arrogant. Meanwhile, at a different place, a different Doctor Strange is like the same evil version, except in this timeline he accepts her death, meaning he needs to forget the past. Then this world started to melt as if it's going to end, and the Ancient One appears as an echo to warn Strange about the other Strange. It turns out when the Ancient One was fighting arrogant Strange, he splits up into two versions of Doctor Strange at different timelines. Kinda like Legend of Zelda? I don't know. Maybe. Anyway, Good Strange was getting ready as a portal on the floor teleports the Evil Strange. Evil Strange attempts to explain to Good Strange about bringing her back, but Good Strange disagreed. So the two fought, but unfortunately Good Strange lost and Evil Strange absorbs him, making him a fatal mistake by actually bringing Palmer back. The universe is starting to crumble into nothing as Evil Strange tried his best to stop the madness. Then he sees the Watcher, begging him to punish him instead of the world, but the Watcher can't interfere. And Evil Strange is now lonely in this tiny world. Moving on is Zombies, where the event takes place in Infinity War, except that someone caused a zombie apocalypse. Earlier, Hank Pym travels into the quantum realm to save his wife, but she infects him with the virus and spreads into the world. A few weeks later, Bruce Banner was back on Earth after events of Thor Ragnarok, and the world was already dead, except a few people he meets. Just like any zombie apocalypse show, they need to find a cure, and to find it, they need to go to Camp Lehigh, so they can broadcast it to the world that there's a cure, but they need to outrun the zombies. They lose half their team by, well, you guessed it, zombies. We even see a scene of zombie Captain America fighting against Bucky. They finally get to camp and meets Vision on the way, which is not food. I mean, of course, zombies don't like metal. They made a cure which he gave to Scott in a jar, meaning the cure is success. But when Bucky was roaming around the place, he found T'Challa with only one leg, meaning Vision was using him as food for Wanda. The misunderstanding is that Vision can't secure Wanda the cure, and this goes deadly as she wakes up. The team escapes, leaving Bucky and Hulk behind to give them time to escape. And then we see this disgusting yet awesome version of Thanos. Okay, the next universe is called Killmonger Kills Tony Stark, where we are back at the very first MCU event, Iron Man, except that he is saved by Killmonger, for some reason. Well, you see, without Tony getting hit by a bomb, then he would never made the Iron Man suit and saving the world. Tony promotes Eric to be his bodyguard, and with a prize, since he saved him, he wants to return the favor. So Tony shows Eric a prototype of a robot and they agreed to build it. The only thing that was missing is vibranium, and to get that, they need to get that from the black market. But things go horribly wrong as Black Panther starts to infiltrate the place. Out of nowhere, Eric appears and he betrays both Rod and T'Challa, killing them both. They both have their funeral, and after that, Tony catches Eric red-handed as he saw what happened at the black market. Things get really tense as Tony got out the mech that they built, Eric destroys the robot and kills Tony. And then we see here that he made a lot more mechs like before and sends them all to Africa. Eric and his little friend goes for a little joyride, riding to an unopened part of Wakanda, and kills him. He gets himself into the border of Wakanda and meets his uncle, reunited as Shuri was getting a little bit suspicious of Eric. She doesn't trust him. Eric and his uncle start having a conversation that one of the vibranium is inside the mechs that he wishes his uncle to fight them all. They won victoriously as his uncle gives Eric a fruit that will make him the next Black Panther. He meets his cousin T'Challa, asking Eric as if it was worth it. And we see Shuri meets Pepper, passing proof and planning to stop him. Moving on is Thor was the only child, and this episode is just getting even more bizarre. The event takes place in Thor, and the timeline is different. In this universe, when Odin was in the Frost Planet and found Loki, he gave him back to his kind, making Thor the only prince in Asgard. His mom is planning on taking on vacation while his husband is asleep. Frigga tells his son to study to become a better king, and while she is gone, he goes to Earth to party there. Aliens from around the galaxy were having the time of their lives as Captain Marvel attempted to stop this party nonsense. S.H.I.E.L.D. were going to plant a nuke on both the heroes, but they cancelled early as Thor received a message from his mom, and she knew this because Jane Foster went there by asking Heimdall loudly. Frigga has to cancel her vacation to come to Earth, just to make sure Thor is studying. Thor ordered everyone on the planet to fix their mess, and after all that, Thor was right on time so his mom wouldn't notice. Next up is Ultron 1, and the event takes place in the Age of Ultron. In this universe, he was able to take over the vibranium body, which is Vision, and they defeated the Avengers, causing the planet to become a wasteland. Clint and Natasha are the last of the humans, and they have an idea how to stop him. They went to Siberia to meet Zola, and he is the one to stop Ultron. But the only problem is that he doesn't exist in this universe. A little while ago, out of nowhere, Thanos appeared with 5 stones in his fist and got instantly killed. Ultron gets all 5 Infinity Stones, made an army instantly, and quickly eradicated the universe. Just like MCU Thanos, he was starting to become bored. While the Watcher is narrating, Ultron meets up with the Watcher and fought out in the multiverse. The Watcher knew he couldn't win, so he escapes and went back to the universe of Evil Strange, asking for his help and breaking his oath. But anyway, since this is the final episode, I won't be calling it Universe, since this is different from the other episodes. But anyway, let's move on. The Watcher recruits 6 people from 6 parallel universes. Captain Carter, T'Challa, Killmonger, Party Thor, and a version of Gamora where we didn't even get the chance to see their origin in this universe. The Watcher tells them about Ultron's plan to destroying the multiverse. So he made a group called the Guardians of the Multiverse. Little side note before we move on, reason why the Gamora Iron Man episode wasn't made out yet because of COVID-19 issues. So that kinda explained why they have this scene out of context. Back to What If. The group goes to a planet and arm themselves filled with strange Supreme's magic. But Thor accidentally summons a bolt of lightning, causing Ultron to grab their attention. Eric and Gamora goes to Ultron Vision's world while the others fought. T'Challa steals the Soul Stone on Ultron's chest, and the gang started to flee to Ultron Vision's universe, where they caught up with Wasteland Natasha. She joins the Guardians of the Multiverse, and Ultron appeared again in his universe. The gang pinned him as Gamora took out the Infinity Crusher, crushing the stones into dust. But there was only one problem. The Infinity Crusher was only to destroy the stones in Gamora's world, not Ultron's. Ultron now goes berserk while Natasha uses the arrow with Zola's consciousness and struck it into Ultron's eye, causing Zola to take over Ultron's body. Then Killmonger took advantage of the Infinity Stones and had a tug-of-war with Zola. Anyway, Strange realized that they were not supposed to win. He was supposed to separate them. So he drags them both into a pocket dimension and everyone goes back in their universe except Wasteland Natasha. She tries to convince his Watcher to fix her world, but he still wouldn't interfere. So instead she took her to the universe, which was episode 3, and stayed there. And then we see one last scene of the Watcher, and the scene where we see Hydra Stomper. And that was What If. Honestly, this is my first time watching this kind of series where all the characters in the episode meet each other, which I find it rare and fascinating. Goosebumps, for example, or any series related to Goosebumps, never meet each other after the end of the episode, not even if it's the same situation. What If is way different from the others, and Disney Plus did a good job on it. I really admire it. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.